Alright, hello everyone. Thanks for watching my video here. Name's Gil. It's just a side hobby of mine, doing scale models, anywhere from 1/35th scale vehicles. Lately I've been preferring 1/48th and 1/32nd scale aircraft, like the current one that I'm building now, which is a Hasegawa 1/32nd scale P-40 Warhawk. Hopefully I'll be able to do a few more videos of actually building this kit here shortly. Today's video is just going to be a simple overview of some of the equipment that I use personally and why I've chosen to use them, and some of the various things that I like to do while I'm modeling. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start off with glues, because every plastic model kit you're going to have to glue together at some point in time. So for my glue, the main one that I prefer to use is this here, the Tamiya Extra Thin Cement. Really good glue. Comes in these nice little square bottles. Mine's actually got some primer and paint remnants in there from some of the painted pieces I've done. I like to use that. It utilizes the capillary action. Works really well. I use that for the majority of my assembly during my kits, and I recently picked this up after reading Mr. Doog's webpage at doogsmodel.com. I'll put a link to that down in the description. I like to try and give credit where credit is due. It's the Flexifile Plasti Weld. It's nice little clear liquid here in the bottle. It goes on with this little nifty little contraption, the Flexifile touch and flow applicator. It's literally just a small glass tube with almost like the portion of a hypodermic needle here on the tip. I don't know if you can really see that all that well. Again, it utilizes the capillary action. You load it up by actually putting the glass tube in the jar, and it'll get sucked up into the tube, invert it, and it'll all flow down. You can just literally just lay it down on the mat. I use the Olfa cutting mats here, and then just draw it along the two pieces as you have them put together, and it welds the plastic together much stronger than the Tamiya, Tamiya, however you pronounce it. Like I do Tamiya. It welds the stuff together really well. I like to use it. I show you here on the aircraft model, but I like to use it in the wing roots in here and along the fuselage halves, because it just creates a much stronger bond. You just hold, put it on there, hold it in there for about 10 seconds, release, and it's fused, welded together into one piece. It's going to take a little, some sanding to clean all the edges up and everything like that, but no big deal to me personally. So those are the glues that I use. I also have, just your standard crazy glue. I use that with some of the photo etch parts that I use, not too often. Okay, so we've gone over glue. Now we've got paints. Everyone has their own opinion on which paint is best for any given scenario. Like I said, these are just my personal preferences. As for my primer, recently I have switched from using the Tamiya surface primer in a can. This one's actually light gray. No big deal. I still have it. I use it every now and then, generally on some of the larger pieces. The one I've really liked recently is the Vallejo surface primer. Prime it out of my airbrush, just pour it right into the cup and go. No thinning required. Goes on nice and smooth. It's got some good leveling properties to it. It's acrylic based. I work in my garage, no huge fumes, no issues with that. So I do like the Vallejo primer. For a vast majority of my airbrushing for a while now has been done with the Tamiya acrylics. They're a solvent-based acrylic paint, so there's a little bit of fumes. I would not recommend trying to brush paint with these ones. It just turns into a horrid mess. I did it once when I first got back into modeling about 2 years ago, and it turned just turned out disastrous. I still have yet to try and even repair that model kit that I destroyed with doing that. I have some custom blends. This one is my World War II aircraft interior green mixture that I've kind of done up. It's decent. It gets the job done. This here is actually a bottle of decanted spray paint. I have taken the Tamiya Aircraft Bare Metal Silver AS12. I used some of this sticky tack here, and I basically created a lip right around the edge of the raised portion of the nozzle. Chopped up a drinking straw, shoved it in there so it had a good seal, and literally just straw straight from the nozzle into the bottle. Sprayed it, decanted it so that I could use it through my airbrush to try out a chipping technique that, again, read about on Doog's website. Dude makes some amazing models. Like I said, credit where credit's due. So I've decanted it into here. Hopefully in one of my next videos we'll be able to actually see how it sprays out of my airbrush. We'll get into that in a minute. So majority of my airbrushing has been done with the Tamiya colors. Very wide range, very good paints. They good adhesion properties. I really do enjoy them. I also have some of the Mr. Hobby Aqueous Hobby Color, which is their acrylic model line. I've had some pretty decent success with them. I like them. They're not bad. I actually picked all of these up when I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. So my pickings are kind of slim at the local hobby shops around here. It's either Tamiya or Model Master paints. Not a big fan of ordering off the internet. I like to try and keep things local. I also did recently pick up one of the sets of the Vallejo Model Air paints. I like these. Are phenomenal paints. Probably going to end up getting a lot more of the Vallejo just because they're so easy to use with an airbrush. You can control how much paint you're putting in with the nice little eyedropper setup. Great paints for airbrushing. I literally just drop it in and go if I'm going for heavy coverage. But if I'm going to go some lighter coats so I can get some shading to show through underneath, I've got the Vallejo airbrush thinner that I will just, drop or two in with the paint, stir it up, go to town, have a blast. For brush painting a lot of my details, I've got the Vallejo model color range. These are, again, Vallejo phenomenal paints, amazing range of colors, great leveling properties. They do phenomenal work. If you can, hopefully this guy will come into light pretty decently, but this is the pilot for the P40, and I've done him all in the Vallejo colors. And like I said, it's, to me, the Vallejo paint range is amazing, works exceptionally well, especially with the fine details and painting. Great stuff. I also have some of the Mr. Hobby lacquer-based paint. Again, picked them up in Japan, needed some paints while I was over there. And these three are actually out of a World War II U.S. Army, Navy, Royal Air Force aircraft interior color set. And it's got chromate yellow primer, aircraft gray green, and zinc chromate type 1, which is what I was trying to replicate with my custom Tamiya mix. Like I said, I didn't do too bad of a job, but no big deal there. So those are the main paints that I use. Like I said, it's all personal preference. I've had good success with all of them in using them in various ways. For some of my detailing and weathering effects, I have some Winsor & Newton Artisan oil paints. I use some turpentine, thin them down, do the pin washes or sludge washes. I've got, this one is Payne's Gray. I have Raw Umber, and then, just good. I picked them up at, I think, Michael's or Hobby Lobby for a couple bucks a piece. No big deal there. And since we're on the topic of weathering, also while in Japan, I picked up some of these Tamiya Weathering Master kits. Different dust and dirt effects can be had with them. I've used them to a limited degree. They're kind of oily. Not really too sure on how exactly I like them, but I'm going to try and incorporate them into this P40 build that I'm doing. So hopefully we'll come up with something pretty decent on that. So we've covered the glues, we've covered the paints. Every good modeler, especially guys doing aircraft, you're going to need to use putty at some point in time. It's just a given. Different manufacturers of the kits, they're going to have different just quality of fitment with the parts and whatnot. So I've got your basic Tamiya gray putty. Pretty decent. It's really sticky and tacky. You can thin it down with some acrylic, some lacquer thinner. Apply it with a Q-tip or an old brush or something along those lines to get it to seep, go into those seams, so you can sand them down later. And then I also have some of the Tamiya polyester putty, which is kind of like Bondo. So you've got the activator and the actual putty. So you've got to mix in the hardener, stir it all up, and then start working with it before it cures. And your cure time is going to be dependent on how much your ratio of hardener to actual putty. Used it on a P51 build I did recently. Turns out pretty decent. So far so good. I just recently picked up this one, the Squadron Green putty. So haven't used it to a big extent yet. I did use it on two small little spots here on the front end of the fuselage on the P40 that I'd kind of gouged out using some of the Tamiya putty. So I'll be able to give a better breakdown of how that worked out for me. Okay, so we've got that. Other tools that I like to use. We go into brushes for detail work. I just keep mine in an old like spaghetti sauce jar. Brushes, bristles up. My main brush, that's probably not fun to do. The main brushes that I use are my Tamiya modeling brushes that I picked up. I noticed that, at least my local Hobbytown USA stocks them, but a lot of these brushes I picked up at Michael's. Aside from, of course, my Tamiya brushes, got them in varying sizes and widths for different types of detailing work that I'm doing. Some of them are just real cheesy ones with some decent bristles. I'll use those for pastel works, pigments and stuff like that. If I'm doing a dust effect, I'll just break out one of my crappy brushes and go to town with that. So, I mean, paint brushes are paint brushes. Use what you use. Personal preference, I always stay away from the testers, ones with the white plastic handles and the crappy plastic bristles. They're just going to fall apart. Horsehair brushes or actual natural fiber bristle brushes are my personal favorite to use, and same with a lot of other people as well. Now to actually like the building tools that I use. Picked up a bunch of these little alligator clips on basically some skewers. As you can tell, they're covered in varying shades of paint. Good for holding small parts and keeping the paint off your hand when you're painting. A couple bucks, no big deal. Excellent tool for your toolbox, at least in my eyes. I got a pair. These are actually Lexan scissors. I'm honestly not even sure why they're in my box here. I think I use these for cutting out a lot of the decals that I use. So, pulled over from my RC hobby days. This one I want to say was made by Mr. Hobby. It is a panel scriber. Real fine metal point to it. It's for rescribing panel lines or creating new ones, what have you. Sharpie marker, I use that mainly in the instruction book to mark off stuff that I've done or changes that I wish to implement when I'm building my kit. Your standard X-Acto, hobby knife blade. I have a couple paint stirrers. Also use these for putty work to get them, into the seams and work it before it hardens out, and then I break out the sandpaper and go to town. Another little hobby blade. I have a Tamiya design knife. It uses real small blades. Actually, the blades that I currently use in it are Olfa brand spare blades. Excellent hobby knife. Actually, excuse me, that was my mistake. I use the Olfa brand blades to my modeler's knife. They're a little bit larger, nice good angle, hold an edge really well. I don't have an issue with that. And the design knife I use for some of the finer work. And these are actually, again, Olfa blades. So they come in this nice little container with new blades here and a spot to throw away your old ones. So a couple different types of X-Acto knives, no big deal. These are actually Tamiya Craft Tool decal tweezers that I use. I use them for a myriad of other purposes, not just decaling. And I've got your standard girlfriend or wife plucking her eyebrows tweezers, and then some angled ones. So those are my main building tools that I utilize. Every now and then I'll break out this handy little guy. Just a little, picked it up for like $8 on Amazon. Just a little third helping hand with a magnifying glass, good for doing some fine detail work. Like when I was building the pilot, I definitely used it to paint his face and his eyes and whatnot. So great little tool to have. I like to live by the mantra, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I have it in case I ever do need it. Let's see what else we got. Q-tips. Can never have enough Q-tips, especially when airbrushing. Get rid of tip dry that's inevitably going to happen. Little small corrections here and there, no big deal. I use some 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. Clean off any fingerprints and whatnot on the bare plastic before I start painting it. I have Liquitex Flow Aid that I like to use in with my Vallejo model color paints after I have thinned them down if I'm going to put them through the airbrush. Just something to keep it wet longer than normal. Prevents a lot of tip dry. So I keep most of my tools just old soup can, no big deal. Okay, so we've gone over some of the tools and whatnot. We have my airbrush. It's a Iwata Eclipse HPCS double action gravity feed. I currently have a 0.35 needle and tip in there. Works good. I get some decent close-up work done with it. I use it can do some broad coverage as well. Again, if you've ever contemplated getting an airbrush, don't hesitate. Just do it. And if you're worried about the cost, but you're one of the guys that's going to go out and buy 4 or 5 model kits, but never buy an airbrush, for the cost of those 4 or 5 model kits, you could have a good airbrush setup, and the quality of work will improve tenfold right off the bat, just because you don't have to worry about brush lines showing up in your paint work or anything along those lines. It just it's night and day difference. So like I said, I can't recommend them enough. I picked up this again while I was in Japan. You'll see a lot of kanji writing on a lot of my stuff, but again by Mr. Hobby. They make a lot of good stuff over there. It's a rubber chipping block. It's kind of like a little magic eraser. It's like almost a pink rubber eraser that's been infused with some type of sandpaper, for lack of better description. Good for chipping off some of the worn edges on equipment and whatnot. Give it that nice little aged look, exposing the undertones. I do plan on using this when I do my chipping technique later on. Toothpicks. You can always find a use for toothpicks when modeling, whether it's precise application of glue or scraping away just something that's gotten somewhere, most likely paint. Like I said, toothpicks, gotta have them. I picked this up for about $2 at Hobby Lobby. Just a little aluminum painter's palette, really good for when I do my detail brushwork, I'll put a little bit of water or whatever paint I'm using. It's appropriate thinner in one cup. I'll put some of the paint in the other way, another cup, and boom, I've got just enough to get the job done, so I'm not wasting supplies or anything along those lines. We've got those. This is actually my Tamiya thinner. This one's for the enamel colors or the lacquer-based paint, the X20. Rarely use it because, like I said, most of my paints are all acrylic. I have a bigger one of the X20A for the acrylic Tamiya paints. I've heard 15 different variations on what people think is inside of that paint thinner, and it's essentially a mix of water, rubbing alcohol, and a retarder agent to keep the paint wetter longer. And I also have the acrylic paint retarder. I like to use this when I do some of the airbrushing with it, just to give me that extra little bit of work time before I end up with some tip dry. This is Tamiya panel line accent color in black, which is essentially pin wash in a bottle. It has a nice little hooked tip on it that you just literally dab into a recessed panel line, and I don't know what it is about capillary action in scale models, but it works, gentlemen and ladies, because I know you're out there. Just sucks that stuff right down the line and goes to town. And next up we have more Mr. Hobby products, really big in Japan. We have Mr. Mark Setter and Mr. Mark Softer. These are both used in decal applications. The Mark Setter actually is almost like an extremely watered down glue that also helps promote the adhesion of the decals once you get them off the transfer paper. So your decals are going to stay on much longer because they all eventually will peel up after God knows how long. And then you have Mr. Mark Softer. This will actually go on top of the decal, and what it does is it's a little solvent based that will weaken and slightly dissolve the transfer paper that the decals are actually printed on, and allow that to suck into the recessed portions of your model, wherever that decal is going to be, whether it's on a panel line, an instrument panel in an aircraft. It conforms to the shapes and makes your decals turn out much better. We've got sticky tack, plain old poster tack. You can use this for masking soft edges on camouflage patterns. I like to use it in conjunction with a skewer or something along those lines when I have to paint a small part that my little alligator clips won't grab onto, or some of the larger pieces that I can't grab onto with that. So I'll use some sticky tack and a skewer. Boom. Part on a stick, paint away. Clothespins. I like to use clothespins to hold together two pieces while the glue cures. Keeps them nice and pressed together. It's a clothespin, so I really can't go into too much detail on that one. Pledge Future. It used to just be called Future. Everyone knows you can put this a nice gloss coat down after you get your top coats done, so you can put down your decals onto a nice flat surface where they're going to adhere to nice and smooth. Like $5 at Walmart. This is the stuff, because they've renamed it. It's not Future anymore. But if you look down on the little tag on the shelf where the price is, it'll say Future. So it's Pledge Floor Care Multi-Surface Finish. It's water soluble. It's an acrylic based substance. So you can shoot this straight out of the airbrush. You can brush it on with paint, with one of your paint brushes, no big deal, and it's got excellent self-leveling properties, so your brush strokes are going to disappear. I like to put it into like a small Dixie cup or something like that when I'm doing canopies. I dip it in there, let all the excess drip off, set it on a paper towel, and that'll wick away even more of the excess, and it turns your decent injection molded canopies to just an amazing finish that actually legitimately looks like glass at that point. So highly recommended, especially if you're doing aircraft. I know the armor guys use it a lot so they can do their decals, and then they'll put on a matte finish top coat after that. Couple bucks, no big deal. And then we've got, of course, sandpaper. I prefer to use generally between 4, 6, and 1,000 grit sandpaper. I do have some higher grit ones stashed away. I picked up at Lowe's. Good, you know, of course, it's sandpaper. Gentlemen, if you need me to explain what sandpaper does, I got nothing for you. You need to go talk to your dad. Seriously. He has failed you. So, you know, I've got some of the other ancillary equipment, different size brushes, nylon bristle brushes for cleaning and overhauling my airbrush from time to time. I have some of these small little paint cups. Use these whenever I feel like it, really, because it's, you know, I'm the one building them. Pin vise. Nice little pin vise drill set. A couple different size Tamiya bits. You know, sometimes you scratch building, doing whatever. Even on a standard model kit, you're gonna have to bore out a hole, fix something that's messed up. Handy little tool to have. So that's pretty much the breakdown of all of the equipment that I use, why I use it. So in closing, hope you guys, you know, found this video somewhat informative. Like I said, it's my first one that I've done. So, you know, comments and critique and feedback, always appreciated. So hopefully you'll stick around through my boring voice and whatnot, and stick around for the rest of the build on the Hasegawa 1/32 scale P40 Warhawk. I'm probably a quarter of the way through the build. I'm taking my time with this one now that I've had some free time. Long weekend, work starting to slow down finally. So, like I said, hopefully you will stick around and see how this one turns out. So, I appreciate it, and like I said, have fun, guys.